jóvenes actrices urbanas fantásticas, Cosmina Stratan, Cristina Flutur. Son actrices realmente extraordinarias que recibieron el premio de mejor actuación femenina en el Festival de Cannes. Como ustedes saben, es el premio más importante que va a recibir jamás el actor. Y por supuesto que también nos acompaña un gran amigo del festival, un excelente colega, colaborador, consejero, el señor excelente crítico, Stratan, y él va a ser quien va a moderar esta conversación. Muchísimas gracias.
Christian's second completed, third film, but first one after 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, called Beyond the Hills, confirmed him as, I think, one of the leading directors in Europe, a true master of cinema. He won the Best Screenplay Prize, but the other miracle that happened was these two ladies sitting next to me here shared the Best Actress Prize at Cannes, which, believe me, is a big deal. So I'm going to be talking to Cristina Flutur, who is nearest to me, she tells me the name means butterfly, who plays Alina in the film. We're going to have a clip at some stage, the opening and the scene. And next to her, Cosmina Stratan, who plays Wojcika in the film. It's an extraordinary fact that it is their first feature film for both of them. But before we actually start talking about the film, can I ask you both, one after the other, obviously not both at the same time, to tell us a little bit about yourselves. You're both, I gather, from Iași, which is a town in the east of Romania, where Cristina Flutur also comes from, and which clearly has an endless wellspring of talent. Maybe you could tell us, Cristina, first off, a little bit about yourself and how you came to become an actress.
And thank you for being here. I first went to the Faculty of Letters before I decided to become an actress. So I studied organ and piano. And after that I decided to go to the drama school. And after I finished my drama school, I went to the National Theatre in Pennsylvania. And I worked a few years as a theatre actress before receiving this call to be in Christian school. So, that's it.
The rest, as you will gather, a thriving tradition of live theatre in Romania, which accounts for the extraordinary talented actresses that come out of Romania. You are still studying drama, but before that you had another profession. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, thank you for coming. I still have a lot to learn, that's why I'm still in school. I used to be a journalist before. I went to drama school, and actually I met Christian before the auditions, 5 years before the auditions. We met each other at an interview. I used to interview him about his almost 3 weeks into his movie. But I didn't know that I'm going to see him again in this situation. But after that, I went to drama school, and all my colleagues in journalism asked me, why do you do that? It's too risky. It's really difficult to find a job as an actor. And they asked me, what would you do after you finish the university? I said, I don't know, maybe do a movie with Christian Flutur. And it really happened. So I was really lucky to have a chance to work with him. And yeah.
The actual process of coming into this film?
The actual process was a bit different from Cristina's process, because Christian saw some pictures with some actors and he said, I want to see this actor, I want to see this, and after he saw my picture, he said, well, I don't think I want to see her. And he didn't. My first audition was with the casting director. And after he saw the tape with the scene, he called me and
And are you like your character in the film? Are you a deeply spiritual person?
I expected this question later. I really try to draw my independent character so I could better build it correctly. So, yeah, we are a bit different.
Cristina, how did you come to play Alina in the film? What was the process that you went through to get that part?
I received a phone call from the casting director, and he told me to come to Bucharest for an audition. And I said, yeah, right, for next film of Cristina Flutur, yeah, sure. So I didn't believe him, and I just told him, well, call me next day, maybe. And I totally forgot about this phone call. And next day he called again with the same story. So I said, maybe it's true, I don't know, let's check it out. So I took the first bus to Bucharest. And I still had doubts before I entered the room, and I heard the secretary telling me, Cristina is waiting for you. Oh. So it was kind of funny, not for it to think it was a joke, really a joke. And I met Christian, and it was like, I don't know, we kind of felt and understood each other from the very first moment, the first reading. We didn't talk much about the character, we just both felt the right way for my character. But at the beginning I read both characters, and he said, well, he had to decide because you kind of can do both of them. So after that he decided that Arsenal was for me.
How many of you out there saw the film on screen yesterday? Anyone? Just useful to know. Just very quickly, for those of you who didn't, it's the story of two girls who were best friends at an orphanage. One of whom, Alina, has gone to Germany to work. The other of whom has become part of a very strict religious order in a monastery which exists beyond the hills. An email returns to visit her friend Brigitte in the hope, I think, of taking her back to Germany with her, but things don't quite work out that way. I think this would be perhaps a good moment, unless you want to say any more about the two characters, but just have a look at the opening. But we've selected a clip which is the opening of the film. Obviously this film is not yet out on DVD, we don't have a 35mm print here. What we do have, and I apologise, is a screener which has some lettering in the middle of the screen, which is not as distracting as you might think it is, but I should just point out that this is a screener sent out to promote the film rather than the first copy of the film. Are we ready back there? Do we have the clip?
No, la parte crítica. No, estoy sorprendida. Las ideas de las
as the film goes on, it gets colder and colder and snowier and snowier. When did you film it? It looks like it was filmed in late autumn, early winter. Is that right?
It was in December and January, actually.
Was it a particularly tough shoot in terms of the weather, the cold?
Yeah, it was a bit. There were some times where there was minus 20 degrees or something. It was a bit difficult because we shooted a lot of scenes were outside.
I imagine Christian to be absolutely determined that things be authentic. Is that right? Yes.
And he wasn't the only one, and it was easy like this.
Just looking at that opening clip, I think I said to you just earlier that it looks fantastically dangerous when you run across in front of the train. Were you worried about that particular scene, Cristina?
At first I wanted to say that it was very strange for us to be here now and the characters behind. It's the first time that it happens to us.
And the other thing that is very striking from that opening scene is Christian's love of shooting the back of people's heads, which Anne-Marie was shot that way for a lot of the time, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. Do you have to concentrate, do you have to be in character just as much with your head, back of your head in shot?
If you think about it, if you put yourself this question, that means you're not there. So it doesn't matter from which angle the shot is, you just have to be there and forget about the camera.
I've been trying to source a quotation all afternoon, but I can't remember who it was said it. There are two things that it is impossible to film: sex and prayer. And in this film, you spend most of the time in a state of prayerful belief. Did you find, is it very difficult to convey that kind of intensity of spiritual belief, of religious belief?
Yeah, it is a pretty risky field you're on, so I just try to think about my character like a different person, so I can have the full freedom I needed. And it was easier like this, because if you think about it, what you're doing, about the situation, things can go crazy.
Tell us a little bit more about the character. How would you describe her? How do you see her? Why has she gone into this religious order?
She's really like a small child who needs someone besides her always at the beginning of the movie. And during the audition, I really thought we had a lot in common, and it's not such a difficult character for me, but during the shooting, I realized that we are so far away from each other. So I was lucky to have Christian beside me and to show me sometimes the good path. Because really, first when I read the scene at the audition, I read the scene between Alina and Nikita, and I looked at Alina's character and it seemed much more interesting than mine, because it's a spectacular one and it has rage and courage, and I thought that I want to do that. But after that, when Christian decided for me to play Nikita, because he only saw me in Nikita, I was happy, because I had the chance to reach a much more subtle level and less more spectacular, and got the chance to experience some things that I thought were not noticeable, but apparently they are, and I'm happy with that.
Cristina, Alina is a combination of extreme vulnerability and a huge amount of anger that was built up inside her. And you can see that in her, you see the downbursts clearly through the character. How do you prepare yourself for that kind of coiled spring anger that is essential to that character and leads to what happens in the second half of the film?
First, I'm surprised to hear that Alina was a spectacular character. Really? For me, it was not like this at all. What I liked about Alina was that she had also this kind of inner complexity, an inner fury and rage that she had to keep inside for half of the movie, and then suddenly to burst out. So I had to be able to do both, to keep emotion under pressure, and then to let emotion burst out, and not be afraid to burst out, not be afraid of ridiculous or pathetic or anything, but just trying to make it as true and authentic as possible, to be believable. Sometimes it can be hard to be believable. I don't know how I get to a character. For me, it's a mystery. I wish I had a recipe, but I don't. It's more sort of a connection. It's like entering into the story. Really, for me, the story is real, is important. The character's feelings are real. Everything becomes very real, and I kind of simply enter and start to feel emotions that don't belong to me. But how exactly it happens, I really don't know. It's different with each character. For each character, I have the feeling that I start from zero, and I'm in front of a big mountain, and I say, "Oh God, how will I get there up there?" But you just get the backpack and you start doing step by step, and suddenly you find yourself inside the world of another human being. That's for me.
There are, it's a very ambiguous film. It's a film which doesn't tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's actually happening. You just observe it. But there are two things which are particularly crucial that perhaps you as actresses have to decide. The first has to do with your previous relationship, which is hinted was a sexual relationship when you were in the orphanage. Did you have to decide on that, whether they had in fact been childhood lovers, or could you simply perform the actions, as it were, and not make that decision as an actress?
We never really had to decide anything, like it's this way. And yes, the relationship had her uncertainties, so to say. But I think it comes from the lack of love these two girls had when they were young, so they didn't have anybody. They grew up together and they didn't have a family, a sister or brother, so they only had each other, and they projected all their needs on each other. So no, we didn't really talk about the sexuality of the characters.
Yeah, it's in a character, for me there is always a part of secret that I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I don't want to choose. So I like to say that this part of their lives, whether it was intimacy or not, it's a secret that belongs to Alina and Wojciech, and it's only they know. Of course there are, hints, but it's like you are free to choose, the answer. And I think this is great about that particular scene, that the audience has this freedom of choice. whether they had it or not.
The other ambiguity in the film, which again perhaps you particularly have to decide, is towards the end of the film, your behaviour becomes extremely erratic, and it's either that you're having a nervous breakdown or, as father believes, you're demonically possessed. Did you make your mind up on that one? I mean, that you could leave open, perhaps.
We have decided with Christian from the very first day that Alina is not a mentally ill person and she's not possessed. So we just left the two extremes aside. It's not interesting anymore to play any of the two extremes, because then no matter what the character says, you don't listen to her anymore. Just blame the disease and then you blame the devil. For me, Alina is just a very lonely person and with quite a traumatic past, quite a traumatic biography, and with an immense lack of affection. So when the only person in the world whom you love and whom you have says no to you, rejects you again after you have been rejected all your life, you can get mad, you can get aggressive, you can start to be violent, and when the others around are becoming violent, well, you respond to more violence with violence. So I don't know if it's a nervous breakdown, maybe, but it's just the result of a lot of pain inside. She cannot accept actually the fact that Vakita has found a new path. Sometimes you just cannot accept something which is very obvious, because otherwise she could have left the monastery before anything bad happened. But she chose to stay and to convince her. So for me, no, she was not mentally ill at all. I don't know what you would think after you see the movie.
I just have three more kind of general questions before hopefully opening it up to some questions from the floor, from the hall. The first is to ask you both to say a little bit more perhaps about working with Cristina Flutur. How does he set up a scene? Do you discuss it at length? Do you rehearse it at length? Do you improvise? Do you simply deliver the lines? How does it work?
He sets up a scene, we improvise, we do it differently. We did it differently actually, because every scene was different for me, because I was in every scene of the movie, and I cannot say that we had a really strict schedule of shooting. So we took every scene, every situation, step by step, trying to figure out the best way of pumping into the situation and make it real. So it was an amazing work with Christian, because he has a really special type of intuition that helps the actor a lot, and he gives you freedom to trust yourself, even when you have to experience risky acting skills, and he gave me that opportunity.
You go ahead.
It's true what she said. And what I also liked, except all this, is that he gave the impression that we have time, although you never have time really. But he gave this impression that you don't have to hurry. You have all the time in the world to look for nuances, to look for the real thing in the scene. And then miraculously you get quicker when you think you have time. Thing comes even quicker than before. We didn't talk much. This was very interesting with him. From the very beginning, actually, he didn't explain much about the story and the character. And we kind of felt, both of us, and then the whole team, which was the right path and which was the right measure for everything. And I love this because it's rare to meet a director whom you can feel and he can feel you immediately. It's really rare, and really grateful for this.
I mean, as a director, he is a fantastic craftsman. Every shot looks beautifully composed, and often when that happens, the director will just move the actresses around or the actors around to fit the pattern that he's trying to create. But somehow that never appears to be the case. You know, the combination of emotional intensity and stylishness, which is, I think, one of the many things that make him a great director. Did you just feel constantly within the character, within the moment when you were shooting the film, unaware of the way he was crafting the sequence?
I think this belongs to him. I never really risked to think about those things. So, just was in the situation and tried to make it as real as possible.
From the intimate, less intimate Cannes Film Festival, I assume neither of you have ever been there before, to the Cannes Film Festival. Even if you go frequently, it's still an enormous shock. What was the experience like of doing the famous Montée-des-Marches, going up the steps with everybody taking photographs and calling your name? I mean, to come into this, from having made this film under slightly austere conditions in the cold, and suddenly to find yourself actually in the rain probably this year, because it was very wet in town. What was that experience like? Can you describe bits of it?
Well, it all happened very fast. We didn't have time to really realize what's happening. We just kind of been overwhelmed and like in a sort of a whirlpool. We were just coming from the airport like 10 minutes before Christian got his prize, and after 5 minutes we just heard our names and we had to go up there. And frankly, what I was thinking about while walking, I was like, should I kiss Baldwin on his cheek or should I shake his hand? I had this very concrete problem, like what do you do there when you are on there? Do you shake hands or do you kiss on the cheek? Well, that's it.
How was it for you?
The same. But I was just thinking about not falling down in the stage, because I really had some high heel issues. And I tried not to think about the speech, because it's really risky to be on the Cannes Film Festival stage without a speech in your mind. But I tried to not to do it, because it's great to be there in front of all these people and to really try to realize what's happening. And it took all my time.
The way it works with Cannes, there are 22 films in competition. You have, I think, 3 days of hospitality in Cannes while the film is screening and while you do your press work. Then you go away home again. And then, if you're very lucky, you get a telephone call. And I gather that you didn't quite realise when you get a telephone call telling you to come back for the closing ceremony. It was a good sign. Did you know that? Did you think, wow, we won?
We didn't dare to believe that we were for this prize. We thought that maybe the film will get a prize, maybe Christian will get a prize, but when they called us to come, both of us, we were like, oh, do you think what I think? Or but actually, we didn't dare to really believe it till we got there.
Yeah. I remember that someone was telling me before I was going to the stage, give me your purse, you won't need it from the stage. Like, what should I do there? No, I'm here. No, I'm not. But it happened in the end, and I had to admit it.
The obvious question next, or my final question really, is you have now very, very deservedly won one of the top acting prizes in the world. For 2 extraordinary performances. For those of you who haven't seen this film, I don't know when it opens in Mexico, but when it does, get out there and see it. You've won these prizes. What's going to happen next to your careers, do you think? You're just going to go back to doing what you did before? Or?
It seems like a good way. I don't know, I have now some theatre projects and in the movies I'm waiting for the next movie, but it's much more difficult to wait after this one.
Yeah, I got back to theatre also because I had planned a performance with Chekhov before anything happened. So I just had the premiere in the theatre where I work now. And well, we'll see what happens with the films next. For now, we try to read a few scripts, we talk to some people. It's nothing concrete for now.
Anybody? Questions?
¿Alguna pregunta?
Something?
¿Alguna pregunta por parte de la prensa? ¿Para qué?
How was your movie received in your country? How was the movie received?
Actually, it was released about 2 weeks ago, I think. And after that we were at the premiere, and after that we left home. But the premiere was actually really emotional because we were in our hometown with a lot of friends and family came, and it was an amazing atmosphere. But we have to go back home to see the way the movie is received.
We kind of talked to some people who saw the movie immediately after the movie, and they were very moved by what they saw, and they had interesting questions. But mainly it's like, I don't know, the audience is not just mass of people, it's just individuals, and each of them has his own opinion. Generally it seemed okay, like well received, but it would be nice to talk more to different people from the audience. We received many messages on internet with responses to it, and people are interested, and they are happy that the film exists. So I think it's a good sign.
Anyone else? Back.
So you were talking about Christian letting you act about the nature of the characters being natural, but didn't tell you much about the past. How was it for you on the scene? Was there much improvising, or did you have any difficulties, like experimental involved in your character, or how was it for you?
We actually didn't get the question because of
It's the microphone that kind of.
Okay, so you were talking about a question that didn't tell you much about the past of your characters and let you improvise your scenes and everything. Was it difficult for you? Did you have like these moments, or did you just let your characters evolve with the movie? Like act with your own nature? And how was it for you, like difficult, or how was the experience?
I understood 70% of the question. We didn't improvise the scenes. We had the script and we had to learn the text, and sometimes Christian changed the text even one day before, and you had to just learn it very quickly. Because he was very open to changes, and he was very flexible in case the character or the story went to a direction he hasn't thought of before. He accepted it. And he accepted also our suggestions, which was really nice. It was a continuous collaboration and cooperation. We improvised certain nuances, certain parts, but mainly the scene was the scene, and you had to do it the way it was written. It was not difficult. It is usually that's what an actor does. He has a text which doesn't belong to him, in a situation it doesn't belong to him, and he has to be there and make it his own. So it was not difficult. But what helped very much is that we were shooting in a chronological order, and this was very helpful to start the story from the beginning and to go step by step, day by day to the end. And also the fact that we had long shots, it was also helpful because we both come from theater and we are used to accumulating emotion. So we had time in a scene to just build the tension, which was helpful for me.